Hi guys, today I've got for you a documentary that is such a brave piece of journalistic filmmaking. Mr. Nobody Against Putin is a documentary that shows the real-life footage of how schools became militarised once Russia invaded Ukraine, and how censorship and speaking out against the regime became an even bigger issue. This is told through the eyes of a primary school events coordinator in a town that is deemed the most environmentally toxic across the whole of Russia, right smack in the Urals of the country. It was partly developed by a Danish production company to help make it what it is, and then smuggled out the country along with the teacher himself. This therefore makes it eligible and has been submitted by Denmark for Best International Feature Film at the Academy Awards. In this video, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the film, followed by 5 talking points of the film, as well as look at how well it could do in the Oscar race. So let's roll and review that film. If you're new to my channel, my name is Paul, and I review the best of world cinema, and I follow the race for Best International Feature Film Academy Award, from countries selecting their submission to the final winner. Pasha is an eccentric primary school events coordinator, working in a primary school in an industrial town in the heart of the Urals in Russia, far cry away from the cosmopolitan Moscow. Pasha has lived in this small industrial town all his life, including attending the primary school he now works in. He hasn't conformed to the traditional Russian masculine role model that is often portrayed, and has reported feeling isolated growing up and feeling very different. However, him working at the school has created this sense of community to him. He feels part of this despite previously being isolated. And the film really shows this loving relationship he has with the school, with the pupils, with the teachers, and the wider community. As well as organising events, he also has a responsibility to record lessons within the school and then submit the footage to the government. This started around the time of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where there was a very much nationalistic approach coming top down from the Russian government. And children are now taught war poems, how to look out for landmines, and how Ukraine is the enemy with Nazis running the government. Pasha starts speaking out against some of these elements. He's pointing out that kids are missing out on some of the curriculum because they're being force-fed the narrative coming from Putin's government. And the teachers and support staff around him start to feel slightly nervous because of the censorship issues, as well as some of them being very pro the Putin government. He therefore makes the decision to leave the country and bring the footage across. So there is an opportunity to show the world what is happening in Russian schools. So here are 5 talking points about the film. Number 1, it really shows how brave Pasha is. There is something about being able to capture this footage and using it to criticize the Russian government, despite the fact there could be huge consequences in doing so. He is showing how much time, resource is being spent on the propaganda, on flag parades every morning, on how to be anti-Ukrainian government and whatnot. And he exposes how different staff are questioning this propaganda to different levels. No one is as outspoken about it as he is, but there is that often questions. How much of this curriculum are we spending teaching this stuff? And what impact is that having on the children's wider exam results? But I think there's something about Pasha that really embodies this bravery, because it's not just this. He's actually quite a non-conforming individual. He's very softly spoken. He doesn't conform to a big, masculine, brutal Russian stereotype. He is slightly outside the system, and he has to have that bravery every day just to exist and survive. Number 2 is about Russian masculinity. Despite his non-conforming masculine identity, he seems to have this real bond, especially with some of the male students who have left the school, but he maintains that friendship and relationship and becomes almost like an uncle to them, looking out for them, celebrating their wins and their birthdays. But then that fear when they start getting subscribed and mobilized into the Russian army, including when he starts losing former pupils. It's really amazing how they demonstrate these masculine relationships when they are very different individuals. Number 3 is how well it shows how propaganda works. It's fascinating because we see the start and the introduction of the Nationalism Act, which requires schools to do this sort of thing. And at the start, most of the teachers are quite dismissive of this. They indicate they don't really believe it and it's just something they have to do. And as the film goes on and the footage captures more and more lessons, there's almost a belief in it coming from the same teachers. And it shows how ideas that were once disproved or mocked in the past can develop if given the right propaganda. And then this has created Pasha becoming the outsider again. And it's best shown through his relationship with the librarian, who he loves. They had such a great relationship. And as the film goes on, it's almost the tension of them not being able to speak to each other properly because the librarian has particular view shaped by this propaganda, while Pasha is so against the Russian government of this time. Number 4 is how well it shows how propaganda is driven by fear. So as the film goes on and people start going to war, family members and friends are lost on the front line. There is no questioning of the war. In fact, they seem more for it than at the start, despite the human impact. And people aren't able to talk about it. They are mistrusting Pasha because of his beliefs, but his beliefs are in line with the fact that that individual that they've lost would not have been lost if they had followed Pasha's point of view. And they don't reject war despite the individual cost for it. So another example, when they're looking at the school results, all the teachers see their pupils' performance reduced because they're spending so much time doing Russian nationalistic propaganda. And no one particularly questions it within the school system, despite the hierarchy is really endorsing it because of the way the state runs. And number 5 is the situation in towns. Now in Moscow and St. Petersburg, there's been lots of protests about the Ukrainian war, which has seen really brave people stand up to the Russian government, be arrested and whatnot. But actually, when you go to that small town that's slightly away from this cosmopolitan liberal point of view, the situation is very different. Pasha immediately becomes isolated when he starts talking against the government and people are starting to buy into the government. And you don't have that sense of people grouping together to protest. He is on his own. And because the community is so small, there is not the numbers to do that, and people are less likely to speak out when you don't have the masses. This is again why Pasha is such a brave individual, and this is why it's worth watching this film. Overall, I think this is a great documentary that really captures the bravery of one individual and his pursuit to challenge what the Russian government are doing. I would therefore give Mr. Nobody Against Putin 4 stars. This is Denmark's official submission for the 98th Academy Award for Best International Feature Film, and it's been their first documentary submitted since the Oscar-nominated Flea a couple of years ago. Denmark are one of the most successful countries of all time at the Oscars, ranking 6th on the all-time table, with 4 wins, 10 additional nominations, and 4 additional shortlistings. But in more recent times, in the last decade, Denmark have been particularly strong. With 8 out of the last 10 years, they have managed to get at least on the shortlist, with 1 win for another round and 4 additional nominations, making them the second most successful country in the last 10 years. I would rank Mr. Nobody Against Putin as my 5th favourite from the 11 submissions I've seen so far. And while I absolutely love this film, and it's a great act of bravery, I'm not sure this is the film that will make it to the final 15 shortlist. I think there's quite a few documentaries that are related to the Ukraine-Russian situation, and I would imagine Oscar voters will probably pick out Ukraine's submission, which is directly related to the war. And so this will struggle to make that final 15 shortlist. It's a great documentary, but I think it will struggle because of what else has been submitted. But it's such a brave piece of documentary making. I'm really happy to be proved wrong. Have you seen Mr. Nobody Against Putin? If you have, put in the comments below. What did you think? And do you think it will get an Oscar nomination? If you like this video, please do subscribe to Global Film Pool for more news and reviews for the Best International Feature Film Academy Award Oscar race. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.